The rabbi told us, as he always did, to turn off our cell phones before he began the service. So I pressed that button on the side of the phone and saw its long face go dark. I was ready to reform, after all. It was, again, Rosh Hashanah. It was the beginning of the new year, which meant that it was time to contemplate my various failings and imagine how to become a better person. I stood at the cusp of the year, surrounded by other members of Bethlehem Synagogue, everyone clad in their suits and fine dresses and pumps and satin yarmulkes. How elegant we all looked, how shimmery and crisp and presentable. The scents of rose and orange drifted through the air. It seemed that all of us had taken special care dressing this year. We were shoulder to shoulder, we knew each other and we didn't, and inside everyone was grimy in a precise, individual way. We all peered into the ark, its tall oak doors now open. The sheer white curtains floated lightly over the Torahs, adorned in their crimson velvet cases. They looked as though they were ready to go to an expensive restaurant or a wedding. The cantor's voice soared as he sung the deep notes of Avinu Malkeinu, all of us bowing slightly before the ark, trying to appear humble or concerned, assuming the blank and philosophical expressions particular to the high holy days. The other congregants were so focused, I envied them. There was the temple secretary, Chaya Weiss, skilled at silence while voices argued over her. Her eyelids were closed and her eyelid twitched as she perhaps viewed her transgressions, whatever they were. There was Max Lowenstein, 10 years old and wriggly. He was still for a moment, chin lifted, hands by his side, as though at a military parade. And there was Gina Gordon, 12, standing very straight in 3-inch heels, glancing with veiled interest at everyone from her new height. Everyone appeared to be closer to imagining their better selves. I was trying, too, to imagine this, but my mind kept swerving the wrong way. I considered the catalog of my personal failures. There was the time I snapped at the cashier at the supermarket when she refused to give me a student discount, even though I was not a student. There was the fact that I never returned the cashmere sweater that Mara Stein loaned me because I found it soft and comforting in a way I could not release. There was the moment I swooped in and stole a parking place from Stan Tamkin, whose truck was adorned with the worst bumper stickers, and who was sitting, unfortunately, just a few rows away from me. There was the time I yelled at those who had done nothing, really, and were just in the way of my anger, and there were the many times I woke up, read the newspaper, and felt like a pancake of defeat. I closed my eyes and tried to see myself as different. I wished I could move through this bruised, shoddy world like a giant, in a way that was grand and brave and perhaps even helpful. But whenever I tried to imagine this version of myself, my mind slammed shut. I was a dwarf of bitterness. And I was not able to access this better self, no, for I was mired in my own personal grievances. I wanted everything I shouldn't. I wanted a load of cash and a jacuzzi tub in our bathroom and everyone to stop yelling, and I wanted everyone in this nation to shut up and listen to me. Why couldn't everyone just listen to me? I wanted sometimes to escape to another life, and I wanted to freeze time so my children and husband would always be who they were at certain perfect moments, and I wanted my family family and friends to appreciate the love I wanted to lavish on them, but everyone kind of preferred their own sort of love, which was their choice naturally, but it sometimes made me sad. I wanted my parents and an aunt and some friends who were dead to be alive again. And I could not get accustomed to and even bitterly resented their deadness. I wanted my brother to stop being mad because I had taken the best chandelier out of our parents' dining room. I wanted the cats to stop napping and clean up the house. I wanted to eat 10 Inton coffee cakes and not gain a pound. I wanted to climb back into my mother and try again to be born. I wanted to go completely deaf when some people were talking, and I wanted others to simply vanish. I wanted to ram my car into the minivan of Angela Price, whose son bullied mine. I wanted, how I wanted, to grab hold of and repair my broken nation before it slipped away and vanished. I looked at the congregants standing around me. They all gazed at the ark, faces slowly starting to open. Everyone appeared to be reasonably alert. I did not know what any of them wanted from themselves or from our nation, but I knew what I did. I wanted a nation in which our leaders never lied and were elected to office because of their adherence to the truth. I wanted a nation where if people got sick, they could be cared for swiftly, tenderly, and the only concern would be that they would get well. I wanted a nation that did not conjure suspicion about entire groups of people and did not assault or kill them. A nation where everyone could look at each other kindly in the eye and say, hello. I wanted a nation that did not just roll around naked and panting in piles of money, and where people who held fistfuls of it were actually able to say, here, you have some too. I wanted a nation that did not order those who wanted to be here to just get out, go away, and brutally cart them off, but instead welcomed them and learned and kindly said all their names. I wanted a nation where women could stroll leisurely through dark parking lots, city streets, everywhere, and never look behind them because they would never have any fear. I wanted a nation where a person could go to school or shopping or wherever and never worry about whether it was smarter to dive under a chair or run. I wanted a nation where people did not view one another as zombies, because they were not zombies, because they wanted the best, not just for themselves, but also for each other. I wanted a nation where people loved one another, even strangers, because they had that much feeling inside of them, because they were that alive. I sort of wanted to repent, but really, I wanted others to repent. I wanted the whole damn world to repent, to stop muttering and behaving terribly, and just, for once, be good. Then, a cell phone started to ring. It was a cheery, slightly irritating tune, the unmistakable melody of a device that wanted you to grab it and make it stop playing. I thought, what idiot left his cell phone on? And I looked around, and then I realized, with a jab of horror, that the melody was coming from somewhere around my feet. The ringing phone was mine. I grabbed my bag. How could my phone be on? I had turned it off. We were in the middle of services. I was not this dumb. Oh, my hands were shaking, and I fumbled with the phone, forgetting how to turn it off.
The damn thing kept ringing. My hands were as clumsy as enormous mitts and somehow could not figure out how to silence the phone, so instead I answered it. "Mommy," said a stranger's voice. The members standing in the pew behind me glared. The cantor's voice soared grand through the room. "Ah, wrong number," I whispered. "Please, you know I'd be good," said the voice. I was trembling. Everyone in the congregation knew the phone belonged to me. They were concentrating very intently on their holiness. Oh, the pure focus on their blank faces, and I had interrupted them. "Stop," I said, and hung up. I pressed the button on the side, the power button, so the phone would turn off and I could get back to my quest for a higher self. The phone rang again. What the hell? The phone was off. Seriously. Now the cantor was looking none too happily at me. I answered it. "Yes," I whispered. I'm calling about the job," said a woman, sounding nervous. "There's no job," I hissed. "But I need it," she said. "Please, give it to me now." I hung up. I looked around. The activity by the ark had ceased. There was no pretense of worship anymore. I shrank to a puddle of shame. Happy Rosh Hashanah for me, the idiot whose cell phone had gone off twice. "Honey, don't you know how to turn your phone off?" asked Eva, whose husband died a year ago. I held out the phone as evidence. Eva's best friend, Harriet, who ran a catering business, sat beside her. Skeptically, she eyed the phone. "Apparently she does not," Harriet murmured to Eva. "It's off," I said. "I swear." I could feel everyone staring at me. How had I been so thoughtless, so careless? Didn't I see how others were trying to better themselves? Why couldn't I? Did I want to, or was I, perhaps, a saboteur of others' desires to improve? Another phone rang. But this time, it wasn't mine. Thank all gods everywhere. Everyone looked around. Another tinny melody erupted across the room. A woman gasped and rummaged through her purse. She brought it out, and the phone happily ringing away. "It was off," she cried, but she answered it on speaker. "I got a bad diagnosis," a man's voice said. "I gotta quit my job and hire somebody to take my place, but to hell with it, I won't." Another phone rang, and then another. The rabbi and cantor, the temple president, various high-ranking members stood bewildered, suddenly ineffectual in the presence of these spirited ringtones. All the phones were going off at once, and the entire congregation seemed to be scrambling through their purses and pockets, pulling out their phones and answering them. My phone was ringing again, too. Each time I shut it off, it burst into its fierce song. Each time it rang, a person wanted something, urgently, or they were going to act. "If the elevator keeps breaking, I'm suing the building. Now. If you tweet those photos of yourself, I swear I will take your phone and smash it against the wall. Stop," I kept saying, and snapping my phone off. Would they just shut up already? Who wanted to hear the world's complaints? The world was mad, as in disappointed, humiliated, hurt, resentful, confused, lost, and everyone had personal solutions to this, most of which were inadvisable. They were human, most solutions were inadvisable. All of the congregants were answering their phones and going pale. No one was listening to the calls, but instead everyone was annoyed and confused by the rush of the ringtones. But the calls kept coming, on, and the pleas became more high-pitched and urgent. The cell phone sang and bleeped and whirred and filled the sanctuary with an unholy ruckus, and no one knew what to do. "Rabbi, how do we make it stop?"
The rabbi gazed, bewildered, upon all of us. He clearly didn't know. My phone rang again.
"My dog ran away," a woman said. I don't want to leave the house." I was about to hang up, but this time, the phone trembled, living, warm, in my hand. There was a feeling in her voice that I understood. It was a sadness, the most human sound in the world. I understood this more than any words. So I did not turn off the phone. "I know," I said. "Sometimes I feel the same way." I waited. There was the sound of a human breathing. "Thank you," said the voice, and hung up. The phone shuddered in my palm, and then it was off. It seemed to be off. I almost wanted to call her and continue the conversation, but I did not. And then I heard, very clearly, the voice inside the phone of Frida Sonnenbaum, who was standing beside me. In her phone, a man said, "And for the last year, George, my son, started drinking, and he won't talk to me. My son. I drove him across the whole state of North Carolina for his basketball games when he was a kid, and he was an honor student in college, and he drove drunk to our house, and we started meetings, but I just want to drive to his apartment, grab the bottles of liquor, and empty them into the street." This man was upset. Of course he was. But I heard something else in his voice, too. I grabbed Frida's phone. She was a real estate agent and not one who relinquished her phone easily, but this time she did. "It's hard," I said. "I know. It is." There was silence. "Yep," said the man, and hung up. Frida stared at me. I gently placed the quiet phone in her hand. The phones exploded into sound over and over in the room until the person who answered the phone did not tell the one on the other end to stop. The phones were adamant, ferocious for attention, their rings shrieking so that it felt as though they would reside forever in the air. But as soon as we said something to the person on the other end, anything but stop, the phones ceased their ringing. One by one, the ringing vanished, and after a few minutes, finally all the cell phones in the temple were silent. The silence in the room seemed new. It seemed enormous. The congregation looked a bit shaken. My ears felt a bit tender from all the buzzing. I was depleted, but now the air was pure as glass. In this silence, I felt I could hear everything. Or I could try, perhaps, to listen. We stood in front of the rabbi, who gazed at all of us, pleased. "We are all ready now?" he asked us. We were. I think we were ready. There was so much that all of us needed to fix. The world was still hot and despairing and full of pain, and I wasn't a giant at all, but I wasn't dust either. I was trying to be a hopeful resident of the world. I stood with my fellow congregants in this room, feeling their presence beside me. We were all paying attention now, our minds unfastened. We looked to the year. Here it was. "All right then," the rabbi said. "Let's begin." Thank you.